Hi, and welcome to today's webinar, The Agile Utility, Driving the Energy Cloud, brought to you by Greenbird Integration Technologies. Many utilities find themselves under new pressures and in a number of ways to modernize communications, to quickly adopt and deploy prosumer programs, and embrace the 3Ds, digitalization, decarbonization, and decentralization. Solution offerings are at the point of overwhelm. Cybersecurity risks are evolving faster than gurus can fix them, and the utility customer of today, whether residential, commercial, or industrial, expects the utility to move at the pace of other technologies with more efficient and personalized service. Today, we're joined by data integration and modernization experts Greenbird and their CEO and tech evangelist Thorsten Heller, along with Manuel Steininger, Head of Transformation Network Management at EnBW, the largest electricity, gas, and water utility in Baden-Württemberg, Germany. EnBW has committed to outpacing consumer expectations and are undertaking ongoing modernization efforts. Manuel, along with Thorsten, will lay practical foundations based on experience, offering guidance to utilities looking to stay ahead of the curve in strategy, technology, and innovation. Thorsten and Manuel, a very, very warm welcome to you both. My name is Philip Gordon. I'll be moderating today's discussion. But Thorsten, without any further ado, over to you. Have you got perhaps any opening comments that you'd like to make as we commence today's presentation?
Yes, thank you. I lately read a book from Jason Jennings, and in his book he would talk about how to use speed as a competitive tool. And in this book, Jason has a quite famous saying, and that's it's not the big that eat the small, it's the fast that eat the slow. And I strongly believe that is a statement, that is a quote which perfectly fits to the energy system, right here and right now.
That's very, very interesting, and I'm very sure you're going to be taking us through that sort of concept in a bit more detail as we go through. Manuel, any comments from your side? Perhaps something to add to Thorsten's opening remarks?
Yeah, just saw a postcard hanging in an office with a motto on it. It said, "Agile is the new black." But I also read recently in the Business Agility Report 2019 that almost 80% of the companies worldwide have low business agility fluency. So there is a lot to do to become the fast that eats the slow and maybe become faster. But where to start? And in the context of utilities, is Agile really the answer to every problem? And I'm looking forward to discuss these and other aspects during this webinar with you.
Fantastic. Well, we've certainly been looking forward to today's conversation and, of course, being able to put into practical example the same sort of concepts that we're now discussing as a theory. Thorsten, you're going to be presenting first. Without any further ado, over to you.
Thank you. So what I'm going to talk today is about building a digital DNA as a first step towards an agile utility to drive the digital transformation. And as a preparation for this webinar, I also have done some research, and I found some quite interesting analysis which says that 85% of enterprise decision makers, they believe they have a maximum of a 2 years time frame to make significant steps and progress towards the digital transformation. They only have 2 years time frame. If they don't succeed, if they don't progress, they would fall behind. And I think that is a quite interesting statement. 85% believe it's only 2 years. But the real interesting thing here is this research was 1 year ago. So that would mean in the end, utilities would only have 1 year left to make significant steps to not fall behind. But there's another interesting thing, because lately, the last 2 weeks, I was traveling a lot, both in Asia and in the US. And what I have seen there in my discussions with a lot of utilities, and the utilities I was talking with, most of them, they have understood and they have seen the urgency of doing the digital transformation. They have seen an urgency in becoming a digital utility, or you can call it a platform utility, you can call it an agile utility. These utilities I have met both on the Asian Utility Week and also in the US lately, they all have seen the urgency. But something is also interesting, because it's like big data 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Because for me, sometimes it feels like everybody is talking about it, but nobody really knows what it means. Exactly the same 10 years ago, everybody would talk about big data, nobody really knew what it is. And sometimes in my discussions with utilities, I feel exactly the same. So they talk about digital transformation, but there's quite some uncertainty how to do it, what it means, how to continue, and how to succeed. So in my definition, what is a digital utility, or what would be a future utility? And for me, the future utility would be defined by being 100% data-driven. The future utility after or during the digital transformation would be 100% digitized. Of course, and that's something Manuel will talk about later on, the future utility will be agile and will be much more flexible in doing business, but the future utility will also be more tech-savvy. What it means, the future utility will use more modern technologies, modern IT principles, modern design principles to drive the digital transformation. And the last thing, the future utility will be focused on the digital natives. What I mean is they will be focused on providing user experience services to the new generation, the generation Z, to the generation which is used to work digital. And all of the things the future utility is doing as part of the digital transformation in the end is to create efficiency benefits, to create intelligent grid operations. It's all about creating new revenue streams and being more competitive. But interestingly, 80% of all utilities fail with the digital transformation at the moment. In fact, it's even 84% failing. And another research I read yesterday was telling me that many digital transformation projects are stopped or slowed down. And that is quite interesting, because on the one side, we see many decision makers, 85% of the decision makers really believe they only have a 2 years time plan, otherwise they would fall behind. But on the other side, we have research showing us that 84% of all activities fail. So that is something which is quite important, and that is something we want to help you to understand why and what we can do with that. And what we have seen, what are the reasons for that? We have seen at least 5 different areas where utilities and other organizations during the digital transformation might fail or have challenges with. One of the challenges we have seen is a lack of strategy or missing digital leadership. So to drive the digital transformation, it's extremely important to have a strategy in place and to know exactly where to go. The second challenge many utilities are mentioning is a lack of digital skills. So the digital skills typically the digital natives and the younger generation has is sometimes missing for utilities. One of the another reasons, which is quite important, that is poor data. A lot of utilities we talk to, a lot of utilities would talk about the poor data, the dirty data they have, and these poor data, the dirty data, is slowing down the digital transformation. The fourth element we see quite often as a challenge, which makes it hard for utilities to drive the digital transformation, is many of these utilities, they have dinosaur IT, aging IT systems, these huge, big, complex enterprise systems. And these systems have been developed 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and they are not developed for digital transformation. They are not developed to be agile, to deliver agile model. And a last element we have seen many utilities are struggling with is agility and the focus on the users. And what I mean here is a challenge in delivering new and innovative digital services for the users fast. That is one of the challenges. So the core 5 challenges we have seen in our discussions with utilities is a lack of leadership, the missing digital skills, the poor data quality, the aging IT, and the lack or the missing focus on the digital user experience. And that is something we have to work with, and that is something we want to develop, and we need a kind of a digital DNA. A digital DNA combined with an agile mindset, that's what we define, or that's what we see is a framework or formula for success. So we have to build up a digital DNA, and we have to establish an agile mindset in the utilities. And I know many people out there, when we talk about utilities and when we talk about agile, that sometimes that doesn't sound right. Utilities are not always known for being agile. So I'm very happy to listen to Manuel's presentation afterwards, how they do it and what they can do, and his recommendations to drive the agile mindset. But typically, we are not used to think about agile and utilities in the same sentence. But it's extremely important to drive that the digital transformation, that we have agility in place. Because without agility, a utility will never be able to succeed with the digital transformation. And as I mentioned it in my opening statement, it's always the fast that leads the slow. And we need agility to drive the digital transformation. We need the possibility to adapt fast. And let's face it, digital transformation is all about changing. We have to be able to change extremely fast. Another important element is why agility is so extremely important for digital transformation. That is what Manuel already talked about, is speed. We need speed. We need speed. We have to move fast as a utility. We have to deliver innovative services fast. And what is extremely important, we have to deliver solutions fast, not only PowerPoint slides. We have to deliver solutions fast. We have to validate any kind of a business idea fast. We have to test out any kind of a service. And many times we would also fail fast. But we need the speed to drive the digital transformation. And going back to my opening statement, where 85% of the decision makers say we have only 2 years to drive the digital transformation. So speed is extremely important to drive digital transformation. Another element why agility is so important for the digital transformation is we have to think outside the box. we cannot drive the digital transformation with the same kind of thinking we have done always. We cannot drive the digital transformation with using exactly the same kind of methods, the same kind of systems, the same kind of vendors, and then expect we get different results. So we have to dare to think outside the box. We have to break the rules. We have to make things differently. And that means also for utilities, you have to choose maybe different technologies. You have to choose modern technologies, modern platforms, and maybe it means also you would have to choose different kind of vendors. But we have to think outside the box to drive the digital transformation. And when we talk about a digital DNA, what is a digital DNA? As I already mentioned, to drive the digital transformation and to be one of the 60% succeeding with digital transformation, we have both to develop an agile mindset, but we also need to develop a digital DNA. And the digital DNA is all about people, processes, and platform, or in other words, it's all about the human, the organization and the routines, and the technology. So digital DNA is in the end how the organization is operating, how the people are thinking, and what kind of technology these people are using, or what kind of technology services we are delivering to the users. And to develop this digital DNA, there are mainly 4 areas we have to focus on. The first thing to develop a digital DNA is we have to embrace digital thinking. And Manuel will talk about it later, we have to build up an agile mindset. But we have to embrace digital thinking. Everything we are doing, all the services we are delivering, all the innovative data services, intelligent grid operations, whatever we are providing, and customer services, we have to think digital first. The digital user experience first. The second element, which is extremely important to build a digital DNA, is we have to adapt a digital working style. When we talk about being a digital company, and I would send any kind of a proposal in a letter, then I'm not using digital technologies myself. And then I never can drive internally the digital transformation. So what I really have to do is, on the one side, I have to think digital, but I also have to use digital tools and adapt the digital working style. And that also means that I would start making all of my decisions data-driven. The third element, which is extremely important here, is we have to leverage digital technology and the modern IT architecture. So now I'm not talking about tools anymore for the digital working. Now I'm working about the platform. Now I'm talking about the technology we are using to deliver the modern innovative services, either to the customer or to my users. And the users might be my grid operator. The users might be my data scientist. The user might be my client. But I have to leverage digital technology, modern technology. And the last element, which is extremely important to build up the digital DNA, we have to hire digital talent. We have to build up the relevant skills. We have to hire, we have to attract digital talent. And we also have to keep the people in the company, the people having this kind of a skill set. And all of these 4 elements, in the end, if we do these 4 elements, then we would be able to build the digital DNA we need to drive the digital transformation. So embrace the digital thinking, adopt the digital working style, leverage digital technologies, and hire and attract digital talent. And when we do all of these things in parallel, then we can start doing small steps or sometimes even bigger steps to drive the digitalization. And typical steps we would see is, as an example, using IoT technology, using smart technology, and then connecting the things somewhere in the network. And the important thing is not only to deploy all of these sensors or meters, now we have also to connect these things with people, processes, and systems. We also, as one step in the digital transformation, we would start automating all of the processes and the workflows. We would integrate the system to provide a 100% digitized value chain. Digital twin is one of the typical examples. Digital twin is one of the tactics and strategies we typically would use to harmonize the physical and the digital world. So using digital twinning as a tool to drive innovation. Another extremely important thing, and I already talked about it, driving and building up the digital DNA means putting humans and the user experience in focus. The user, the new generation of users, are used to digital services. The new generation of consumers are used to a 100% digitized platform. They are used to on-demand, here and now, and we have to provide the same kind of user experience to the people. And what is also interesting to see when we discuss with utilities and organizations that have built up a digital DNA, these kind of organizations, they have done data and analytics to their core business. And we all have heard the statement, the famous quote from the founder of Netze, where he says, software is eating the world. So in the future, it's data and analytics eating the world. And that is one of the characteristics of an organization having a digital DNA. And the last and quite important thing on this journey is to operate a modern data platform. To operate a modern IT infrastructure, a modern data platform is quite important for two reasons. The reason number one is obvious. We need a platform where utilities can integrate systems easily, can use the data, structure the data, uniform the data, and then easily and simplistic can provide data and utilize the data to create innovative services. So from an agile point of view, a modern platform focusing on system integration, simplifying system integration, unifying data, and then making data usable is quite important. But the second part is, I already talked about it. I talked about attracting digital talent, hiring digital skills. If we want to hire people, new people, experienced people, these people, they really want to work on modern technologies. These people do not want to work with old stylish relational database systems, with the old stylish centralized middleware platform. If we want to build the digital DNA, we also have to provide an infrastructure where the digital talent can develop on a platform they really want to work with. And that is cloud-based technology, that's artificial intelligence, that are exactly these kind of modern IT infrastructure platforms we have to provide, both for ability and to get the people. And that's, from my side, as of now, that is exactly a kind of platform we are providing with our UtiliHive. UtiliHive, the operating system for the Energy 4.0 future, a platform helping utilities to be agile in developing new services, but also an infrastructure and a platform the utilities in the end can use to attract and hire the digital skills we all need to drive the digital transformation.
I understand, Torsten, and thank you for that. It really was a very, very insightful presentation. I'm going to be looking forward to what Manuel has to say in terms of how EnBW has been able to benefit from your insights and your experience. But very quickly, we have put forward a survey today, and again, well, just to reiterate, we have got a question for you. But if you have any further questions for us, please do submit them via the Q&A box on your screen, and we'll be sure to pose those questions to Torsten and Manuel for an answer. We'd like to put forward a question to you, though, and that is, what do you think, having heard Torsten's experience, what do you feel the key challenges are to digital transformation or innovative development? Is it possibly A, missing strategy or leadership, B, a lack of digital skills, C, poor data management and dinosaur IT, as Torsten pointed out, or is it a missing agile mindset? You can submit your answers to us via the webinar platform, and we'd be very, very keen to hear your thoughts on the transformation and, of course, modernization that is going to be required for many utilities globally. Manuel, though, I'd like to hand over to you now and hear your thoughts and your insights, and, of course, your first-hand experience. Over to you.
Thank you, Phil. Well, as Torsten already said, I'm going to focus on the agile mindset and being agile at EnBW or being agile at a utility. To start, I'm just going to give you an idea of what we are doing. So what's the challenge? We have what Torsten called dinosaur IT. Middleware, it's really, really old in IT age, and it's not data-driven. It's not supporting digital business, and that's what we are going to do. But not only on the IT system side for DSO and metering, but also the processes. That means all the people that are working in this context will have new processes, will have digital tools to help them do their work, to more automation and so on. Some facts: we just started at the beginning of 2019. We have 7 agile teams in support, but still growing. We have 4 partners, the developers offshore at 2 locations in Germany and Norway, and we're starting with over 5 million metering points, and initial dev time will be about 5 years. But now to the question, why should a utility choose an agile approach, and even more important, when should you choose an agile approach? I think the benefits are well known. Fast adoptions to a volatile environment, Torsten pointed it out, fast feedback, concentration on really the highest value that you can deliver to your customer, but also employer satisfaction. There's a point to attract those digital natives, building up a learning organization. But not in every case these benefits are what you have to achieve or what deliver the highest value. There are other points, especially in the traditional business of a utility, that are still maybe kind of different structured. So know your task. Agile is not always the best approach, especially when you think of the traditional tasks and business utility have to do. So I've got some aspects that you may want to consider when setting up a project, especially when you want to get a new approach. First thing is VUCA. Well, that's well known. If you have high volatility, high uncertainty, complex tasks, and maybe ambiguity, you should choose an agile approach. Then you have the benefits that an an agile project setup will deliver. But if you get one step deeper, besides of VUCA, you should take into account the cost of change. So if you have a task where you have really, really high cost of change, digging a tunnel, building a power plant, for example, you don't want to just put an agile setup and, well, change and react fast. You need a plan. You need to really fix the big things. If you have a high grade of innovation or low experience, maybe an agile approach suits better. And last but not least, and often forgotten, if you have fixed deadline, it's better maybe to do a waterfall or an agile. But one thing that Thorsten has already mentioned, management, and I mean especially the executives or the decision makers have to be involved. If they are not willing to just accept a different mindset, a different approach, if they have expectations regarding reporting or involvement, you won't have much fun building up an HR setup. So management, leadership, strategy is really, really important if you want to succeed with an agile setup. So being agile as a small team, maybe a Scrum team is one thing, but what about scaling? What about really big projects? Because in utilities, we often have big projects with a lot of people, with complex tasks. So my tips here are mindsets and values and principles that you have to establish in your team scale way better than any method or any structure, any project plan. So focus on these. But no matter what method you choose, whatever framework you want to use in your project, there are three things that help you continuously improve your scale setup. These are reduced dependencies. In most cases, when you have large projects, you have a lot of dependencies between the teams, between tasks, maybe regarding integration, for example. So we have a big challenge regarding integration at the moment. What can you do to reduce dependencies? For example, establish feature teams. That means that the team has all the things that are required to deliver a whole feature. So don't need any other team. You don't need support. The team has everything. It's fully empowered to deliver the whole feature. But also, you may establish a portfolio management to reduce dependencies between other big projects, between the business or business as usual and the things you want to set up new. Also, you need to coordinate the teams. For example, central plannings, or define APIs first so that every team or the developers have a clear guideline how to set up the code, how to combine the modules, and how the architecture works. And also small badges. So that's the thing Thorsten pointed out with speed. If you deliver small batches over and over again, you can see problems really, really fast. You fail fast if things don't go right or if things go wrong, but then you don't have to fix that much. Yeah, it's small batches, really, really important, especially in a scaled setup where you have a lot of teams working on the same code on the same basis. And last but not least, develop your people and the organization, especially in a utility, or if you're not so experienced, it's a long way and it's hard work. So establish management teachers, work on skills, attract new skills, and work on that. And all that is based on, again, lean and agile mindset, the values and the principles that I mentioned earlier. Now, what were our experiences when we started in February? What were like some key findings we had? First, it's the people that will make things successful. So build projects around motivated people. They will easily go through any obstacles. They will not quit if things go wrong sometimes. They will fight hard for success. And it's, well, I don't want to call it a resource, something, but that's just really, really important to have the right people in place. There's a saying, Toyota, develop people, then develop products. I think there's much truth in this saying. Then, take care of management. I mentioned that, and Torsten mentioned that. You need the support of the management. They have to trust the team. They have to trust in the approach. And what helps is an independent coach. And independent means a coach that can criticize everyone, that can really drive things out and further. And it's really important to have a coach. What you also need is time to empower the teams, especially when you have not experienced teams, if you have not that much skilled or digital natives. You need a lot of time to really empower the teams. And in our case, we didn't have much people and much digital natives that were experienced in agile frameworks, in agile structures. So what we did is we defined roles precisely. We chose a framework with a well-defined structure that helped us to evolve an agile mindset. And we agreed on clear values and principles that still support us in what we are doing. Next point, no compromises. If you've chosen an agile setup, then really be agile and not only do agile. That also means that you have to really do things as a whole. Most frameworks just work as a whole. You can't, for example, not do Scrum without a retro. So if you go in, don't make the mistake and start with just parts of a framework or parts of a method. Install them as a whole. Take your time that a team can understand what you're doing, but don't start with just a bit. You have to start with all-in-one. Let the team really make their own experiences and get there in. On the long run, again, focus on values and principles. Long-lived teams, that's something I really can recommend, and force coaching and continuous improvement. Now, some very concrete struggles we encountered or still encounter and how we handle them. As I mentioned, we didn't have much experience or much agile skills on board as we started. So we chose a framework, we chose a really clear structure, and we just started with it. So learning by doing. We made mistakes, we failed, but we failed fast. So we had short iterations, especially at the beginning, because we had to learn over and over again. If we had iterations of 2 months or 3 months and a retro just after 2 or 3 months, we would have learned much slower. And we integrated external skills. We learned from our partners. We learned from coaches that we hired, and we had a lot of challenges that brought us further. Well, it's not surprising that we had a slow progress at the beginning. Be patient, especially in direction of the management. Keep the teams back free. They have to do the experience. They have to learn. This takes time. It's often the management is used to a waterfall project where you have very fast a success. You have milestones that were delivered pretty fast. We didn't see that with that lack of experience and that lack of skills. What you can do is take care of the impediments, support the team where you can, and coach them. Also, ask the right questions. Then, commitment of the management and organization. As I said, management has to fully commit to the Agile approach, to the Agile approach. So that's one task, especially for the project lead. Like it's a kind of link between the teams and the management. So especially at the beginning, there was no direct reporting line or whatsoever between the Agile product teams and the management, like the decision makers at EnBW. It was kind of a link through the project lead. Also, work with the management. They have to experience what Agile approach really means often. So it's better to work with them, do workshops with them, rather than doing like thousands of slides to report. Work together with them. What we've seen in the teams is a false understanding of Agile and Lean principles. I have 3 examples. So Agile means we don't need a plan, or we have no plan and we don't need a plan. No, that's not true. You need a plan, especially in a scaled setup. You have to manage your dependencies. Or as soon as something doesn't work out, we have to change it. That's not Agile. You have to analyze it and quickly adopt if necessary, but it's not always necessary to adopt to another method or structure. Maybe we just didn't do it right. So don't change everything as soon as it doesn't work out. Take a look at it and decide wisely what to do. Or something else I often hear is Agile means no or a lack of structure. We have a very clear structure. We have clear roles and processes, how to develop our software, how to report, and so on. It's not without structure. It's vice versa. So what we do here, it's again coaching and focusing on principles and mindset. If you have installed these and everybody has understood them and lives them in daily work, that helps a lot. You have to do management by walking around rather than giving advices or directives. And it's called health check. Ask the teams, how agile are we? Have we trust in each other? Have we transparency of what we are doing and where we are? And do retros to continuously improve what you are doing. So in the end, what we really see is this is one part of building the digital DNA, the part of transforming the dinosaur IT into a new modern system with a modern architecture, but on the other side, evolving a digital and agile mindset in all our employees through all business units. There's 2 important parts that Thorsten mentioned to build up a digital DNA, and that's what we are doing. So now, maybe what about the survey?
Well, Manuel, it's actually very interesting that you should ask. And thank you for your insights and for your presentation. But yes, to have a look at the survey results, there has been a very, very clear indication that, yes, whilst there are certainly challenges around other aspects, it seems as though a lack of leadership or strategy is actually perhaps seems to be the biggest problem, at least in our audience's informed opinion. Also, though, and these came in pretty much the same level, poor data management and dinosaur IT, as well as a missing agile mindset, both seem to have a role to play. Dawson, just to come back to you again, do you have any insight or perhaps an opinion on this?
That's the results in the end, they do not really surprise me, because I have expected that missing leadership is the #1 challenge, because that is exactly when we discuss with our clients, when we discuss with our partners, that is exactly the #1 challenge we see, the missing strategy, the digital strategy. And that is exactly the steps forward. How can you drive the digital transformation? Which steps to perform? What should be your focus? And how can you constantly adapt to a changing environment? So it doesn't surprise me that much. The one thing what surprised me is in the end that anyway there were about 20% or even more with the dinosaur IT and the poor data, because from my experience when I discuss it with utilities, there are not that many utilities that really say in clear words, we have dinosaur IT. Maybe everybody knows it, maybe most of the consultants and the developers know it, but the utilities quite often would not necessarily say dinosaur IT as one of the major challenges, from my experience. But maybe Manuel had some other insight.
Well, first of all, I'm not surprised either that missing strategy or leadership was rated #1. We both, Thorsten, pointed that out, that management or strategy is a key factor for success for building up digital DNA. So that's not surprising for me. Indeed, poor data and dinosaur IT is a problem. I see that. As I mentioned, we are working to just replace dinosaur IT with a modern architecture IT, so I can understand that. And in fact, I believe that many utilities did not have the any requirement to switch to modern IT. So maybe there is more dinosaur IT than you expected.
Well, yes, it is very, very interesting indeed. And it seems as though, just based on the responses which we've had, that agile mindsets, to be able to adapt to change quickly, is probably the #1 standout element. And yet, well, certainly, our audience seems to be a lot more agile in terms of posing some very, very insightful and potentially helpful questions. The first of those I can pose to either yourself, Thorsten, or to Manuel, both of you being transformation experts in your own right. But institutional inertia is a major barrier to technological innovation and digitalization. How can this be overcome?
Yeah, that is a wonderful question, because the situation described in the question is a situation we meet quite often, exactly the internal barriers. And interestingly, a week ago on the Asian Utility Week, I did a presentation called Dancing with the Elephant, which is exactly a presentation about working with utilities and how can you do things together with the utilities to anyway remove these barriers and to drive the technological innovation. So that was quite interesting. But let me quickly answer. From my experience, it is a process over time, and it means to adopt some strategies and some small steps. And some of the examples I mentioned in my presentation, we have to start to think digital and we have to work digital. What we have seen from our experience is you cannot drive digital transformation when you at the same time stick to the same old style of doing things. So to drive digital transformation, to get over these barriers for disruptive technologies and all the digital transformation things, you also have to think digital and work digital yourself. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And you have to do small steps and always prove as fast as possible and always deliver as fast as possible these small steps. And then over time, because success is always beating discussion, then you can even change the biggest organization. But it's small steps. You have to be digital and you have to work digital too. That's for my point.
Yeah, Thorsten, I agree. First of all, you need the management commitment to do so, and then start with small projects, start small. And what is important is the whole company has to experience success of these new ways of work. And this is, as you have said, this is a key factor to really drive the digitalization and the agile mindset throughout the whole company. That is a key, really, to start small, but to involve as many people as you can, that they have the experience of what it means to be successful with a new way of work, with an agile approach, with digital tools, and the success speaks for itself then.
And yes, well, absolutely. I think we'd agree with you in general there, Manuel, certainly. Our next question is perhaps related to the previous one. It addresses a specific aspect. Unbundling the grid. Is it essential to successfully adopt disruptive technologies and distributed generation? Would you say that as a statement would be true or false?
I can start first to give you my answer. And in this case, I would like to answer like a consultant would answer. The answer would be it depends. Because I really believe it would help to unbundle the grid. It would make it much simpler to deploy and use disruptive technologies on the one side. But on the other side, unbundling the grid can also be a huge effort, which in the end would slow down the adoption of disruptive technology. So really, I don't think there is a true or false answer here. It's really dependent on how modern is the grid infrastructure already right now. And even more important, I believe deploying disruptive technology in the grid is more about what is the use case, what are we doing with the data collected by the disruptive technology, and that should be the number one focus. So, sorry, I cannot say yes or no, I cannot say true or false. I have to answer as a consultant, it depends, but I really believe it's more about the use case and the benefit we can create out of it.
Well, I believe that some aspects of the grid have to be unbundled. Like there cannot be a discrimination of the connection to the grid or grid access at all. But if unbundling that goes even further is hindering new technologies, well, that depends on how the regulatory framework is set up and how the economical framework is set up. What requirements are there for the grid? Is the grid in a good condition or not? Is there a lack of capacity or not? So if I take into account the grid infrastructure I know and the different regulatory frameworks I know, there are many approaches that lead to a good integration of new technologies, but also, especially in Germany, we have some regulatory aspects that hinder or prevent new technologies from being fastly adopted.
Well, yes, Emmanuel, certainly thank you. And Torsten, thank you for your answer too. We have got time, unfortunately, with things going as quickly as they have, and our time to really moving as a lot faster than what we thought. We have time to ask one more question, and I'd like to pose it to both of you, but I would ask you for the first answer that comes perhaps from the top of your head. There have been suggestions that utility companies that are changing their business model are doing things differently in 4 critical areas. They're sensing opportunities, they're seizing them across new and legacy businesses, and they're going beyond traditional corporate boundaries, whilst creating an organizational design and new ways of working to balance flexibility and stability. What advice would you offer utilities who are finding themselves challenged to balance speed and agility and stability as they undergo modernization? Torsten?
I would advise, again, to do small steps. I would advise to focus on one given area, on a given use case. Use these cases to test out the flexibility, our way of doing agility, our way of doing things differently, and then after we succeeded in a given area, in a given domain, then spreading it out to the rest of the organization. That would be my advice, testing it out in one defined area.
Well, I would say you have to appreciate both approaches. I would say you have to appreciate both approaches. Like, there is no edge, as I said, agile is the new black, but I think that's not true for all the business that utilities are dealing with. So start small, as Torsten said, and evolve things where it is appropriate, but also appreciate the stable and maybe traditional business that utilities still have.
All right. Gentlemen, I'd like to say thank you very, very much for your time, for your insight and your expertise today. Manuel and Torsten, again, for your first-hand experience in modernizing what is arguably is actually the biggest utility in the Baden-Württemberg area of Germany, that EnBW. Well, it's been an exciting and an engaging discussion today. If you'd like to take the conversation to another platform, you can contact Greenbird, and by all means, you're most welcome to do so on the following link. It's www.greenbird.com/2019/09/04, followed by the words webinar, the Agile Utility, hyphenated between each word. We will have that available to you, of course, should you like to make contact with Greenbird in the near future. From all of us at Smart Energy International, A very big thank you to both Greenbird Integration Technology, again to EnBW. Don't forget that Greenbird will be attending the upcoming European Utility Week in Paris in November. Also, today's discussion will be available online as a recording shortly on Smart Energy International's website, or, of course, if you'd like to share that with your colleagues, feel free to do so, or refer back to it for your own edification. From the Smart Energy International team and today's sponsors, Greenbird, we thank you for your participation. Keep an eye on smartenergy.com for our next webinar event and the latest smart energy news. Bye-bye for now.